Welcome back, everybody, to the 17th episode of the My Generation podcast. And today we're going to be talking about costume design and nostalgia. I've always been a major fan of costume design within movies, and being a film production student, I've made props and costumes for my own projects. But I wanted to talk to Tom Hobby, a costume designer in Canterbury, about his costume design work, which includes replicas of one of my favourite movie franchises, Star Wars. Welcome, Tom.
Hi.
Obvious question I'm going to start with. Why Star Wars?
Mainly is when I was little, watched all the films, watched it too many times.
So you start to get an idea of the little individual things that make...
I've always been interested in the actual costumes and the whole thing about especially the animated stuff is amazing on there.
So in terms of animated, is that the Clone Wars series?
Clone Wars, yeah, because it's got obviously the clone armour, which I'm very interested in, and then General Grievious, which I've actually made a full costume with.
Yeah, and you can on the Facebook page and also on the Twitter page see photos of Tom's work that he sent through to us. I find it interesting you pick the Clone Wars and the Clone Army, because if I remember rightly from Attack of the Clones, they didn't make a single physical costume for that movie, did they?
Not for the clones, no.
No.
Or the droids.
Yeah.
The only ones I think was Anakin and Obi and a few of the other Jedis.
So what was the process like for designing... So is it helmets or full body armour?
Well, it'd be full armour. When I do it, I will be doing a full armour thing. So I've got a 3D printer.
So
I'll be printing all the stuff.
Yeah. So is most of the work you do, is it all done through the 3D printer?
No. Some of it is. Mostly helmets and stuff I don't want to really do foam work with, because they're a bit more hard plastic.
Yeah.
Do a bit of clay sculpting where I've done clay sculpting for helmets and I just cast them.
So does each helmet tend to be a mix of all three of those, or one or two?
It's a mixture, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've 3D printed from the new Star Wars for First Order people.
Oh, okay.
I've printed one of them and done that up.
And what's the difference really for you between that and the Clone Wars ones? Because it's quite subtle.
There's a lot of difference.
So could you talk me through them? Because as a more casual fan of Star Wars, you look at especially like the red clone troopers from the Clone Wars versus like the regular First Order stormtroopers. What's the differences?
There's in the Clone Wars there's Phase 1, and with that is their visor is a T shape, and the helmet is just completely shaped differently. It's a bit more of a starts off as a flat bit and then curves up and then into a dome. And
in terms of also the 3D printing, my dad has actually got a 3D printer and he does some of his own stuff, but it's mainly just like bits around the house. He'll like 3D print a hook for something, or just he actually 3D prints like accessories for his own 3D printer. But do you use like a CAD drawing system? What's the process?
There's a lot of online sites, mainly Thingiverse and My Mini Factory.
Thingiverses, yeah.
And they've got just tons of files on there for all the stuff. So I just try and find bits. If not, it'd be a commission, which would be expensive.
Yeah. So with Thingiverse, is it, because I know the designs are quite, not basic, but they sort of give you a foundation and then you take away and add to it. Yeah,
you can do that. A lot of people, because I know a few people that have actually put their own designs on there, which they've made, who are in the Star Wars costume community people. And
is that something that people make money off of, or is this all a hobby, the Thingiverse side of it?
Thingiverse is more hobby, and you can support them if you want to. If you do stuff with it, you have to credit them, obviously.
Yeah. And you work with other people's designs, but then obviously you incorporate other materials and plastics. What are some of the other materials you're working with then when making a helmet, for example?
Well, a lot of time I'm working with EVA or craft foam. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most cheapest and best thing in costume making.
And so is it quite light, or is it sort of a heavier sort of feel with the helmet?
It is pretty light, because going back to General Grievous, I've made all the body, so except for the head. The head was 3D printed. The whole of the other body is foam and is really light.
And how long did that take to make?
Be surprised, 4 weeks.
4 weeks. And was that 4 weeks like every single day, no other project, or?
No, that was along with commissions and time off and going to events.
Yeah. That's actually faster than I was expecting, honestly. Yeah. So what do you think helped speed up the process most for you?
I think it's being focused. I was really focused to get it done because I want to get it done for a certain event. I think it's probably 3 months' time from when I started.
And was that a commission? That specific one?
For me.
Yeah.
Just for me. So it's something I've always wanted to do because it's one of my favourite characters.
And what specifically is it about Grievious? I mean, I know the 2005 animated Clone Wars series. That's a really great General Grievous. But was there a moment for you?
I just liked how menacing he was in the Attack of the Clones film and all that. Revenge of the Sith.
I was about to pick you up on that.
Yeah. But he's just, him and Darth Maul, it's just like, my wife's favourite characters.
And do you plan to do anything with Darth Maul? I know it's not quite the same, but...
No, I wouldn't be able to pull it off, got too much hair.
Yeah. And even with the costume design, because it's sort of just robes, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is there a focus for you on the robotic, really? Or the armoured?
I do prefer... it's because every time I make a costume, I try to actually force myself to go out of my comfort zone.
And what's the next Star Wars related project down the pipeline?
I'm working on a Mud Trooper from Silo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about halfway done with a Royal Guard.
Oh, wow. So, with the Mud Trooper, are you going to sort of rough it up? Because that design, it's like, because it's got the tubing, doesn't it, that goes down into the chest? Yeah,
it's going to be... When I've finished it completely, because I'm going to be making it all from scratch.
Yeah.
The helmet and all that I've printed. I'm going to be making the clothes and that. I do plan to go out on a rainy day and just run around in mud.
Yeah.
To make it all authentic.
So that's the way. There's not like a studio space where you're going to sort of meticulously, you're just going to let it happen.
When I do weathering on armours and that, I want to do it where it's real stuff, not painted on.
And have you done weathering with other previous work?
I've got a full Stormtrooper, which is a Magma Trooper from Star Wars Battlefront, the new ones.
Ooh, okay.
It's got a backpack and Rebreather on its helmet.
I think I know which one you mean. Yeah, and so they're quite like roughed up from battle, aren't they?
Yeah, I brought the kit because it's a kit off of the maker who makes it. I had to then cut it and trim it, fit it to my body.
Yeah.
And it was a ABS capped, so it's all shiny. Because I messed up when I was gluing, I was like, I just don't want to do it no more. I decided to go to a Magma Trooper.
Yeah.
I've sandpapered it, thrown ash at it, damaged it, and actually got cleared with 501st Brigade Garrison.
Wow. So that's quite an authentic way of doing it, isn't it? Yeah. I know this is a completely different subject, but we've talked a lot about Lego collecting as well. And I'm a big Star Wars Lego collector. And I've seen other people make Lego models where they've physically roughed up the bricks.
Yeah.
It's not something I could do to my own pieces, but I know it's something that gets done.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of passion here behind the costume making.
Yeah.
For you, why do you make them? What's the reason behind it? What's the end goal for you?
A lot of time it's just enjoyment from it. I enjoy doing it. I did start off doing it personally just for me. Went to go into Comic-Cons up in London, stuff like that around the UK, and people keep asking me, who made your costumes and stuff like that? And I just said, I did. And they always asked to take commissions. At the time I said no.
Yeah.
But I just gave in and started making stuff for other people, and I've enjoyed it for going into 3 years now.
Wow, so the demand's there. I mean, would you say it's a very community-based thing that you started?
Yeah, it's very community-based.
And so you don't even necessarily go into the events to, people are just coming up and talking to you about your...
Yeah, it is quite recent. It's this year when I took General Grievious up to MCM in London, and it was on a Saturday, and there's over a few thousand people there, and to walk from, which was usually for 5-10 minute walk, it took me 2 hours.
Wow, okay.
Because I just kept getting stopped and taking pictures of. And
that's lovely. But then that's also a way to promote it, because you're walking around and say, hey, this is the thing I do, and you can business cards and commissions. So are the commissions now a super regular thing? This has grown.
It can be, when I actively go about it. I've been non-stop for the last few months.
And it's so interesting because the Star Wars community is just so massive.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of choice in what you want to make.
Definitely, yeah.
So is it you've done Stormtroopers and Royal Guards? What about characters like Cad Bane, for example? For some reason, I'm being drawn to his character design. If you can see him, the bounty hunter in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that is a thing I might eventually do because I'm looking into doing silicone and latex masks. I do know a guy who makes them.
Yeah,
and it's a really it's awesome costume when you see it.
And what's the process like for silicone and latex versus what you do?
You have to do a clay cast of the whole head and then make a mother shell out of plaster. Then just mix up some silicone or latex, just do a slush cast of that. I
imagine with that it has to be a little bit more fitted before you go into it than say a helmet where I guess you get a little bit more lee room compared to
like it depends how much you want to do. If you want to do it where its actual jaw moves with yours, it will be have to very close fit.
Yeah. And especially with obviously the bits that go on the sort of the side tubes of his face, the tubes. I was thinking, I mean, my mind's just ticking over on all the different characters you can do. You've got an endless catalogue.
There's too many.
And so are there Star Wars, because I know within the Lego community, people don't just make Star Wars customs. Yeah. They'll make customs within Star Wars. So things that fit in the universe but aren't real Star Wars ships. Sort of have you seen like the ones that are called, this is just their name in the lore. They're called the ugly ships, where they're like, it's a cross between like a TIE fighter and a Y-Wing. Okay. And it doesn't really work, but it's a thing. People make those. So my line of questioning really is there helmets or designs that you've wanted to do within Star Wars that aren't real characters?
There has been. I've actually done, I think, 2 of my own already. Okay. I've painted up a Clone Trooper Phase 2 lid as a bit like a shock trooper, but a bit more of my own twist on it, which looks pretty good. Nice.
And so is that with the colours that you've gone different with?
No, I've done red colours, which is for shock troopers, but I've just I've done my own sort of patterning on it.
Yeah.
But still in the same fashion of a shock trooper.
That's quite interesting, the idea that specific, like that Star Wars is so big that there are specific colours that coordinate with certain types of clones.
Yeah, it gets even harder with Imperial officers and the actual pauldrons when troopers are wearing pauldrons, because there's 4 or 5 different colours.
Have you considered doing like the sand troopers from episode 4?
My guy is classed as a sand trooper, my stormtrooper, because he's dirty, automatically puts him into sand troopers.
Yeah. Interesting. And it gets also pretty bad with like lightsabers, because you've got all the colours and what they mean. And it's like for college I had to I did a Star Wars lightsaber duel as my final major project. Yeah. And I had Darth Sidious as one of the characters, so I just cloak. But then all the characters had like red lightsabers. It wasn't an amazing project, but the choreography was pretty fun.
Yeah. That's what counts.
Yeah, I mean, the process of making it was great. So for you, what is the funnest part? What's the bit you get the most enjoyment from?
There's 2 really, which is one, for me, I actually go into the Comic-Con as that character and getting all the feedback from it. Next one is when I do a commission for someone, send it off to them, and they send a picture back with them wearing it, saying how much they love it, and do a review and all that. And so
most people, that's great. Do most people, what are the reasons people are buying these? Is it similar to go to events in?
Yeah, it depends really, because I don't just do Star Wars costumes. I can do anything really.
And do people ever use like the props for like movies or anything, or like short films?
Yeah, they can do.
Yeah.
But they've not done it with any of my stuff because I'm still getting into it myself.
Yeah.
But because my Stormtrooper, which I've done, has been cleared with UK Garrison, it means it's screen accurate.
Oh, wow.
So it could be used in films and stuff like that.
Yeah. I didn't know that there were guidelines like that.
Yeah, it's with the 501st, UK Garrison is the one that's here. There's the 501st, which is worldwide. They have to be quite careful with what they do, really, because they are very closely tied with Disney and Lucasfilms.
Yeah. And so the whole the movie accuracy thing, that shocks me. So is it like if there's a dimension that's like 3 centimeters too wide, or you've got a wrong color on a piece, is it gone?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
At the moment, I'm working on trying to get it cleared a Kylo Ren costume.
Yeah.
And I've scratch built everything. I made one version and none of it could get cleared because I used the slightest wrong fabric.
No way. Yeah, well, it has to be the same material.
Yeah, and it's expensive material that they want you to use.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but the standard's high, very high.
Yeah.
So like with your Stormtrooper one, that is approved.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of creative liberty with that because you've just roughed it up with sand yourself.
Yeah, with my one, because there was actually it's called costume reference library, or CRL. That is the guidelines. There wasn't one made for the one I was doing, and I actually went into a few detachments who are like the shiny stormtroopers and dirty ones, special ops, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we actually came up with a costume reference library for it, and my one was the first one cleared in the world.
Wow.
I think there's only 2 or 3 in the whole world so far.
That's pretty niche.
Definitely,
so if someone wants to use a Sandtrooper costume that's movie accurate.
Well, not Magma. It set out quite a few years ago. I think it's maybe 20 odd years ago, or when the first Star Wars film came out. I can't remember when it was. But a guy in America wanted to set up a not really strict, but wanted to set up a costume group for Star Wars. And over the years, it grew into what it is now, where it's got over 1,000 members.
Yeah.
And because it's
quite a closed group as well, because you have to have such a high standard to get in.
Yeah.
And so that's just come from the passion of the fans. So did that group start from fans and is now tied into...
It still is fans.
Yeah.
We do it... the motto is bad guys doing good, because we do a lot of charity work, go to Great Ormond Street, all that, and we get invited to Comic-Cons as well, so we get to go to them. We have to do troop in there.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that concept of you're literally making it a full-on community and tying in charity work. It's opened up my eyes really to a new side of the Star Wars community because there are so many subgroups.
Yeah.
Like there's graphic design, like people who do just Star Wars graphic design, montage editing, which I've dipped into, Lego, and then this. I'm going to push the question in a more Star Warsy direction, but I'd like to know what your favourite one is and why.
What film?
Yeah, what your favourite Star Wars is.
I can't answer that.
Oh, is there not one?
I like them all.
Even the new ones?
Yeah.
Even the prequels?
Yeah.
And see, for most people, it's like some people have their certain movies that they go to.
There's a lot of that in the community as well.
Yeah.
You get asked it and you're like, I can't really answer that because I like them all. Because I don't base it on a story. I like the costumes and stuff like that.
Ah, so you're not even really sort of there for the plot of it. You're there for the world building.
Yeah.
So something like Solo is almost perfect, where there's a new costume every 20 minutes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and I was like, I want to make a mud trooper.
Nice. You see, for me, that movie, the Range Trooper, was my favourite costume. But so what are the costumes that stand out most to you? So we've got Clone, Mud, Sand, Royal Guards. What are the other ones that stand out to you?
Kylo, because he's just menacing, especially the Force Awakens one. I don't really like the Last Jedi one. Stormtroopers, obviously. I do like a lot of droids.
Yeah, that'll be very difficult to do though, only because of their scale.
I am planning to do a full functional R2-D2 eventually.
Oh wow!
And actual battle droids and stuff like that.
So with the battle droids, is it going to be the same electronic?
The skinny ones is just probably going to be a static prop.
Yeah.
And the super battle droids,
you could fit someone in.
I'm going to make that as a costume.
And General Grievous's troopers, the Magna Guards.
Yeah, that would be very difficult because they're very skeletal.
They are, yeah. In places, because there's some parts of them, like their chest that'd be easy.
Yeah.
But then you've got like the thin neck and... also I've got to ask about Mandalore.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's so big in the Clone Wars and Rebels. Have you considered any sort of Mandalorian, like Pre Vizsla?
I have. Was when I first started. I've still got to finish it. I started doing a mashup sort of one where it's a bounty hunter style armor crossed with Predator.
Oh wow! Is that Predator in like the 1987?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to make sure there wasn't like a variant of Predator within the Star Wars universe that I'd missed. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Have you already started work on that, or is that in plan?
I made the helmet, and I've got to get around to actually making a mould of it. It's just being bothered.
Oh, that's a really interesting one. So you're doing crossovers.
Yeah.
Is this your first one, or have you done others?
That is my first actual one I've started.
Yeah.
There might be a few others in the future, but I've got too much on my list that I want to do.
Yeah, well, that's good to keep him busy with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can think of a few crossovers that are working, but that's an interesting one. So you can even do things with like RoboCop and Alien, and the Xenomorph would be interesting.
I do want to make a Xenomorph as well.
Yeah, because how tall are they in universe? There must be.
I think there might be around 7 foot.
Yeah, I was thinking more 8, but yeah,
Depends which
7,
one, really.
Yeah, I'm thinking like original Alien. That'd be a really interesting challenge.
Yeah.
Have you ever dipped into like the Marvel Cinematic Universe at all?
Yes, I have. I have made Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
And he's roughly 9 foot.
So that's
It was a really big costume.
Is that a heavy one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got plaster stilts, and because I wasn't great at using them, I put wood supports at the side of them as well, so they're very heavy feet.
Oh, wow. So what did you make that out of?
EVA/craft foam. It's a very hot costume.
I was expecting you to just say wood. And then,
Yeah, I wish.
yeah, I can imagine that's quite a warm one.
Yeah.
But I assume you'd have like an easy way to get out of it, because if you need like a break or... No,
It takes about 20 minutes to half an hour and 2 people to get me into it. Well, myself and someone else to get me into it. I have to use a chair to get into the legs.
Oh,
and
wow.
I have to do it in a specific order.
Yeah. So certain parts going on in
Yeah.
like a chest.
A lot of the time it's chest, lower legs, and then arms and head. And the arms actually reach out longer than my arms as they are.
Yeah. So do you have like pulleys that connect to your arms and go out to their hands?
What it is I've got shoulder piece and bicep. That's one piece. And then I've got a forearm piece that comes up to my hand.
Yeah.
And then I have a bit where Groot's hand actually connects to the arm piece, and it's got a little grip inside it, so I can grab it and twist it around and stuff.
And I can't remember, so you have to excuse my ignorance. Does Groot have hands, like fingers?
Yeah.
So is there a way of like articulating them with the pulleys on?
I did want to do that.
Yeah.
But that version wasn't that great. So when I'm making my second one, I will be thinking more about that.
I think that's quite a nitpicky question, because it sounds like an amazing project. And because I know they did that Infinity War gauntlet for Thanos, where like you could sort of pull on the... where do you stand on Thanos? Is that something you consider?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been asked someone who wanted to commission it.
Yeah.
I think because I've said at a really stupid price, even though it was a good price, they just didn't accept it. But I'm going to be making one myself eventually.
Because with something like that, it would probably be one of your most expensive, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
it's
quoted around 3,000 for that.
Wow. And what makes that so expensive? Is that the silicon?
Yeah, because how I'd go about it is I'd probably sculpt a head for it and make a silicone mask for Thanos exactly.
Yeah.
I'd probably do the under armour, which is like, his actual body, probably made out of latex and stuff like that. Or maybe a bit of foam. And then I would do his armour on top of it and the gauntlet. I wouldn't just go out and buy a gauntlet, I'd make my own one.
It. Wow.
And his weapon as well.
So would you be doing Infinity War Thanos or Endgame?
I think Endgame, because that's one with the armour,
Yeah,
isn't it?
one with the armour.
Yeah.
So you'd build a gauntlet and then his sword as well, the
dual-bladed one.
Which, if you know anything about sort of swords, it's wrong. It's like a terrible sword design. I assume you know about that.
Yeah, it's a bit like Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
Yeah.
It shouldn't work.
I mean, I know, but only because there's a YouTuber who did a really, really in-depth video about this, who does like, do you know Shadowversity?
No.
They do like, traditionally like medieval weapons, but, and why they work and things, and he has replicas.
Yeah.
But he does some episodes on like really modern stuff, so he did Captain America's shield and why it's a bad design because it's too small. And he did Thanos' sword, so I know why it's terrible, but could you like explain for us, please, why that's such a terrible design of swords?
It's just dual-ended sort of thing. It's really weird. Was it sharp both end? Like both?
Yeah, it was flat, wasn't it? But then had corners that were a bit jagged.
Yeah. So it just shouldn't work.
Too blunt.
It'd be more like a mace.
Yeah. And it was, because it spun as well, but there was no out and in points for it to spin.
And that kind of cut his arm off if he tries to spin it a certain way.
Yeah. It's a lot more risky than it looks. He kind of uses it as like a shield when he's like spinning it. And Endgame spoilers, watch out.
Oh yeah.
people, you've had long enough to hear us now.
Yeah.
Although I was speaking to someone yesterday and they haven't seen Endgame and wanted me to not spoil it for them. And I'm thinking, how have you avoided the spoilers?
Yeah, it's quite difficult.
So with episode 9 coming out, Star Wars in, it's December.
Yep, December.
Are you planning on, because they've released that in their marketing, they've got that red trooper, the Sith trooper, in like all of their marketing. Mm-hmm. Is this something that you want to do so that when episode 9 comes out, you're ready with it?
It would be. Timescale, I don't think it'd be possible.
No, it's getting close, isn't it?
Yeah, there's. I think it's literally a week after it got announced with that trooper.
Yeah.
Someone made a 3D file for it.
Wow.
And you could print it. And it was just like a week after. I was like, wow.
That came around quick. Yeah. It's like when I go and watch like a montage of like the MCU and it's got like 1080p Endgame clips and it's been like a day after Blu-ray release. But I'm amazed at the speed people work within these communities.
Yeah, it is very fast.
Yeah, and the turnover rate of new customs, it's just mad.
Yeah.
I've seen in the Lego community, people have started building like helmets.
Oh, yeah.
Like go round your head out of Lego. Because of, I don't know how much you're into Lego, but there's like ball joint pieces now, the little Mixel style ones. And it means you can make things so much more articulatable for human scale. Someone made a full Infinity Gauntlet with working lights and gold plated pieces. Wow. So that was expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
For Lego, but it worked and it lit up and because of the Mixel joints, it could fit around his hand and have all the subtle movements. But yeah, I'd be very interested to see how you would make an Infinity Gauntlet. Are you thinking about how you're making it already?
Sort of. There's 2 options on that, which is one, obviously foam.
Yeah.
Second one, full metal.
And what would be the differences between choosing each of those 2?
Foam would be easier to paint, easier to work with, cheap, just everything easy. Metal, harder because you have to shape it, cut it, buy it, and it's not that cheap. You have to make sure it's the right colour, and it fits nicely. And
the shaping of the metal, what's the process like of that?
Just be hitting it with a hammer.
Oh, and yeah, you've got to get quite precise shapes as well, haven't you? So that must take a while.
Could do. Yeah, I've done a little bit of metal work, but not too much.
What areas have you put metal work into so far? Is it
I made a bit of Freddy Krueger's glove. I've not made it completely yet, so I kind of put it to a side. There's a full metal one with real blades.
You have to do like a Freddy Krueger / Boba Fett crossover. That'd be,
that's a good idea.
Well, I'm sure you've got ideas that are coming out of your head faster than you can make them.
I've got too many. Like, my list is too long.
Would you say?
Definitely, yeah, because you've got something always to do.
Well, I'd like to also now quickly go into the nostalgia angle of it. So, people buy your products to go to events.
Yeah.
Would you say there's a certain nostalgic element to this?
You could say so, yeah. Because I've had a couple of people come to me saying they want like a helmet or a weapon that's from Star Wars or stuff like that. And they would use it for display.
Yeah.
So I've got helmets myself, which I've brought from other people, which I've painted up on display just for myself because of nostalgia.
And what makes you choose a specific helmet or weapon?
A lot of it is either because it's your favourite character or you just like the look of it. For me, I just want all of them.
Well, every helmet, every different design.
I do plan to get every type of helmet eventually.
And so in terms of displaying that in your room or house or wherever, how do you display it? I find this the hardest thing in the world in terms of Lego.
Yeah, it's the hardest because it uses up a lot of space. At the moment, because I'm in a bungalow, I've not got too much space. So I've got like 6 helmets of mine on a shelf, and then others are in a box or just around the room everywhere. And
because I spoke to Harry on the 2nd episode of the podcast about collecting and materialism and how he has a wall of Funko Pops and how difficult that can be to try and transport. And are you in the same boat? Yeah, I saw in your face.
Yeah, I've got not too many. I've got a lot.
I thought you were going to say 200 then, to be honest.
No, not that many. I've probably got about 30 or 40. Well, I get them signed by the actors.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So when you go to events, you take them with you and...
Yeah, I've got a pretty good collection.
And so I am going to assume you keep them sealed in the...
Yeah, I've got them in boxes and then in a see-through plastic box as well.
Oh, wow, so no dust is getting to that or anything.
And no UV light.
And so you're very, very careful and protective with your collections, aren't you?
Yeah, especially the Pop Funkos.
And does the same sort of thing go for the helmets where you've got like glass cabinets for them? Or is
at
that...
the moment, no, but I do plan to eventually.
Yeah. So this is like a house takeover of props and costumes for the future. Because
in the fun room, I've got a massive... Well, I've got a 145 litre box with my Stormtrooper in, another box on top put out with the weapons, and it's just, I've got no room for anything.
I feel your pain. I'm like that with Lego. My wardrobe is either clothes or Lego, and the room is either Lego or desk.
Yeah.
And some desk space has to be reserved for work, so some of the Lego has to go in boxes. It's a hard process.
Yeah.
Would you say that you can remember or pinpoint a moment where you were watching a Star Wars movie and you saw something come up on screen and you went, yes, the costume design, this is the bit for me?
Well, firstly, it'd probably been when I watched A New Hope and I saw Stormtroopers. I was like, it's probably when I was really little.
Yeah.
Like 6 or something. I was like, I want to be a Stormtrooper.
You want to be one?
Yeah.
Nice. And you've become one.
Yes,
You've built a official...
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously the first time you see is it the first time you see them on Tatooine? Or no, you see them on the Death Star before that, don't you, at the beginning?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So that opening is obviously quite iconic. And that's... You see, a lot of people get different things from that opening, because a lot of people, it's introduction to the biggest cinematic villain of all time. You've taken away something different.
Yeah. And once I've got into this community now, I've actually rewatched it and I noticed a lot of mistakes in the film with dressing issues with Stormtroopers.
What, for example?
You know when he's walking into the ship from the door, Darth Vader, with all the Stormtroopers?
Yes.
There's one literally on his right side when he enters.
Yeah.
The bicep is fallen completely down and twisted.
Ah.
And I noticed that and I was like...
And that's only something you would notice.
Yeah. Only if you study Stormtroopers and stuff like that, you'd only notice it because of that.
That's very interesting. I didn't notice, because I've seen mistakes in movies, and being a film student, I love spotting these things. But I'd never even thought to look at something like that.
No, when you do get into it, you notice all the little mistakes. Because there's bits with actual duct tape on the armour.
Yeah. And coming out in 1977, I mean, there's a little bit more leeway. You wouldn't expect that from episode 9, though.
No. When they were filming Stormtrooper scenes, they said to the actors, you can just chuck it around, it don't care what happens.
Oh, wow.
So that's why there's not many actual screen-used props for Stormtroopers. They're really hard to find.
Oh, yeah, because they just got battered and beaten and thrown away, and because no one knew Star Wars would be so big.
No, actually, I've heard a story from one of my friends when I went trooping. They said once I actually finished the whole Star Wars part, filming and everything, there was a dumpster full of Stormtrooper armour. Yeah. And people just went to it and took it.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I've heard this story, yeah. It's like, now you've just got a piece of history.
Yeah.
So that's what Tom and I have to say so far about costume design and nostalgia within Star Wars. But do you have a story to tell about the subject? If so, feel free to leave us a comment on the YouTube channel, or you can contact the Facebook page at the My Generation Podcast. Newly, and the first time I'm addressing this in an episode, I'd like to say hello and welcome to our Twitter page, which is at the My Gen Podcast. You can find that and all the links in the description. And we are now putting all of our episodes onto tons of different platforms. I went to an amazing networking event up in London where I met loads of audio drama personalities. I'm going to put links to all of their podcasts in the description as well, because they introduced me to all the other platforms I can be putting out my podcast. So if you're listening and you're not on YouTube, this will be one of the first new episodes where this is introduced. And also, I'd like to say goodbye to this microphone, because this is going to be one of, maybe not the last episode I'm recording on this microphone, before we move to a brand new one. So I'd like to know what the comparison is in quality to that. Again, let us know in the comments what you think. Now, I'm just going to quickly tease a few of the next subjects we have coming up on the podcast. And the one I'm going to tease next is Harry. Harry mentioned him before about collecting and materialism. He's coming back not to talk about Star Wars and Funko Pops, although we should do a whole episode dedicated to that. He's talking about swimming. He lives over near the beaches of Brighton, Eastbourne, Hastings, all of that beautiful coastline in East Sussex, and he's going to be talking about his experiences there. Now, I just wanted to go over local impact, because we're a very Kent-based show at the moment, and I wanted to talk about what, within Kent, someone who wants to get into this can do.
A lot of it is research. If you want to make it yourself, best to go on like Google, YouTube, or actual forums for it, because there's a lot of Facebook groups that help people. When people come to me and ask for help, I do give it to them, even though I do commission work. If they want to do it themselves, I'm more than happy to help them along. Just give them advice.
So you're here. You're the central point in Kent for the Star Wars.
There's quite a few people in Kent that I've met local friends through it, and I didn't know they were local.
Yeah.
And we all just help each other because if we enjoy it, might as well let other people enjoy it.
We get listeners from all over, but it's also nice for us based here in Canterbury and Kent to see what else you can do if you're also on the doorstep of the Garden of England. Now, we're going to go back to Tom in just a moment to wrap up this week's episode about costume design and nostalgia, but there are future topics that we're still looking for people to talk about. So if you're a writer with a new script that you've just finished on any medium, radio, theatre, film, or others, do get in touch with the page. We'd like to go through your creative process, what it's like being a writer. I'm a writer myself, but we wanted to go over a specific script. We wanted to deconstruct, take a look, and get inside the mind of a writer with one personal project. And we want to bring that to the show to discuss the creative process. We need a guest who cycles in the countryside. Where do you go? Where do you cycle? We want to hear from you if you're between the ages of 18 and 30 and you live in Kent. And we also need to hear from a graphic designer. I can't do graphic design whatsoever. I rely on a lot of templates and help from others on making sure my graphics look at least up to a standard. And so I'd like to talk to someone who does graphic design because I'd like to learn. Again, all of the links are down in the description of the YouTube video and hopefully on all other podcast streaming services as they become available, Twitter and Facebook, if you want to get in touch with the page. So to conclude this episode, Tom, what do you think is the main thing you've taken away from this episode of the podcast?
If there's people out there, if they want to get involved, they can message me.
And it's a growing community, do you think?
Yeah, it's always growing.
Yeah.
Never stops.
And so Tom's links will be in the description if you want to get in touch with him about doing any of this. I hope this has opened at least some of your eyes to maybe how big a community like Star Wars is, because I didn't realise how big the costume side of it was, and there were so many other avenues. And that is the way it is done. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Tom.
That'll be fine.
Well, I'd love to have you back on maybe in the future to talk about some of your projects that we've mentioned in this episode, like the Mud Trooper. Yeah. I'd love to hear how it goes.
Yeah, it's fine.
So would you be happy to come back on?
Definitely, yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming on this episode of the My Generation podcast and listening along. We've got Swimming with Harry. We've got your comments on Facebook and Twitter. Mitch will be talking about cars. Loads of exciting stuff to come. And Dan Inwood will be back as well. We have been recording this episode at the tail end of August. You're probably listening at the start of October. It is warm here. Probably not as warm where you are, but we're wishing you good weather and good seasons all the way through the winter months as it gets cold. And maybe we'll do a Halloween episode. Oh, we're getting close to Halloween already. But hey, with costumes...
Yep, I do have horror ones.
Yeah, it could even be perfect. Can you just briefly say some of your horror costumes you've got?
Yeah, I've got Jason Voorhees, and I'm working on the Keeper from Evil Within.
Oh, well, this might be something we might have to go back to for Halloween.
Definitely.
So if you're interested, then definitely stay in tune as we'll be talking spooky stuff within the next 3 or 4 weeks. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the My Generation podcast.